Here we go again. New England Patriots lose another one, dropping to 2-7, 20-17 at home against the Washington Commanders. A game going in that we really thought could be a potential confidence builder with the Patriots having an easier schedule coming up. Really tough schedule to start the season. They fell to 2-6, and I was one of the few saying, "Hey, let's not throw it in the tank quite yet. We have a much easier schedule coming up. If they can go on a little bit of a winning streak here, they might even be able to get back to 500 by the time they play Kansas City." Well, that is not going to happen. Patriots lose 20-17, and there were so many issues in this game. Game plan going in with the Patriots once again falling into an early hole as they've done for the last 12 months. 10-0 lead for Washington. They made up for it quickly, quickly getting 2 touchdowns in the second quarter, went into halftime with a 14-10 lead. We did see some of those defensive issues continue into the third quarter, but for the most part, they got it together by the end of the game. That's been kind of a constant story for the Patriots. Their defense kind of improves as the game goes along, as long as it's a close game. But it just wasn't enough because they don't have a lot of offensive weapons. Obviously, they didn't have Devontae Parker. Kendrick Bourne is out for the season. Jalen Reagor, who is a good blocking receiver, has some speed, can get downfield, had a deep throw, hit both of his hands, wasn't able to convert there. Demario Douglas, really the one shining story to this season, came out of the 6th round. Patriots got a real stud slot receiver, the next Edelman, Myers, Troy Brown type guy. It's good to see him contributing, but that's basically all you got. Kayshon Boutte didn't play. Tyquan Thornton can't run a route to save his life. Juju Smith-Schuster, incredibly slow. Made some plays down there on what could have been a potential game-winning or game-tying drive in the final minute. But then the ball hit him in his hands, and Commanders intercepted it and ended up winning the game because of it. So really just an all-around sloppy performance by the Patriots, with their defense coming out and not playing with the intensity you would want to see, despite the injuries. They still got some real good players on that defense, and they gave up a lot of 3rd and longs. It was the same thing that happened against Miami last week. They're missing tackles, they're getting close to making stops, they're playing 1st and 2nd down well, and then they give up a 3rd and 11. And it's very frustrating. I think part of the reason the game plan was so badly is Bill Belichick played as if he was facing not a very good quarterback, and we learned real quickly that Sam Howell is actually a pretty good quarterback. He's tough, he stays in there, he can throw the ball downfield, he's accurate. Really, I think Washington might have their quarterback of the future, and if I'm Bill Belichick looking at this roster with the rumors that came out last week, I'm wanting to be the head coach of Washington because they do seem to have a QB that they can start building around. Really looked much better than Mac Jones out there, certainly outperformed him, threw for 325 yards, a touchdown pass, completed 29 of 45 passes. He did have one boneheaded interception, however, at the end of the first half. Really, this game never should have been that close. Sam Howell played a great game other than that interception. Their offensive line did well. Robinson was able to run. The run blocking was decent. Patriots really couldn't generate pressure even though they were blitzing like crazy, as they often do. It just did not work out, and they had a defensive game plan that didn't take Sam Howell seriously, and it really showed. And then, of course, the real bad story coming out of this game is the Patriots special team. Tons of penalties. Let's just go through exactly what the Patriots special teams did today. This used to be what the Patriots pride themselves in. They draft players solely to play special teams. They still emphasize special teams while the rest of the NFL is trying to move away from special teams. They have the new fair catch rule on kickoffs where you automatically get the ball at the 25, wherever it is. Patriots still doubling down on special teams, and they are just making terrible mistakes. Very un-Patriot-like football from what we saw here for 2 decades. But this is what the special teams did against Washington. 37-yard kick to start the game. Washington received, gives up 37 yards. Great field position already. They were able to go down to get a field goal and get out to an early lead. Demario Douglas on a punt return lost 2 yards. Should have called a fair catch on that, or at the very least run forward and not backwards. He lost a couple yards. Then you had Bryce Behringer's touchback on the Patriots' 47-yard line. I really like Behringer. He's been a very good punter, but he can struggle sometimes with those short punts, and he certainly did today. 2 flags for Brendan Schooler. Anytime you have a special teams player come up with 2 penalties, that's enough to get cut from the team for a Bill Belichick team, or at least for an old Bill Belichick team. I'm sure he'll be back out there next week. And then, of course, Patriots had the chance to get the ball back with about 3 minutes left. I think they had some timeouts. I'll have to double check. And then Mack Wilson was lining off sides. They still ended up getting the ball back late, but with no timeouts, had to go basically the length of the field. Really costly penalty for Mack Wilson there. All but gave them the ball game. And the Patriots just were not able to move it. They were kind of in 12 personnel, basically with Douglas and Juju Smith-Schuster, who, again, has just been god-awful for this team. And he actually ended up making some plays. Patriots looked like they were going to drive down the field. They were actually kind of in field goal range. Remember, Chad Ryland has a good foot. I think it would have been about a 58, 59-yard field goal. And then the commentators blame Mac Jones. Mac Jones did not have a great game, don't get me wrong. But I'm sorry, when the ball hits Juju on a diving catch, whatever he's making this year, 11, 12, 13 million, hits both of his hands and then ends up in the Commanders' defensive hands. And that was basically the ball game. So really frustrating game for the New England Patriots today. And I think it's safe to say this season is a loss. Part of me was holding on saying, hey, they're going to go on a run. They got Washington here coming up. It's a winnable game. Colts, winnable game in Germany on the road against the Giants after the bye week. Then you got Pittsburgh. Bam, you're back to 500. Well, that's not going to happen. And now I'm just sitting there going, can they even beat the Colts? Or are they going to beat the Giants? Maybe we can get a draft pick, get one of the early quarterbacks. But there's so much that needs to be fixed. I know they didn't have Trent Brown out there, but you got to figure out the tackle position. You got to bring in some weapons at the receiver position, but you just got to be a better coached team. I mean, these early holes, this conservative play calling, running zone on plays with quarterbacks that can kind of pick it apart, not taking Sam Howell seriously when clearly the guy is actually a pretty good young quarterback. The team is just not coming into these games prepared. All the special teams penalties, the issues that really ultimately are probably the reason that cost them the game. I think the offense is starting to figure some things out despite the injuries at the receiver position, but they got to work with what they have. I think the scheme was pretty good on the offensive side, but on the defensive side it was terrible, and that's Belichick's bread and butter. It's not working out. It's not working out on special teams, and I'm really not sure where you go from here. I guess you just hopefully we'll see Kayshon Boutte out there next week. He had a great week of practice according to Belichick, but it wasn't enough to play him, I suppose. And, you had Tyquan Thornton who can't run a route. You can be the fastest guy on the field, which Tyquan Thornton is, but you can't run a proper route, you're useless. And that's what we're seeing. So, I know there were some calls from the officials, but it wasn't as bad as last week. Mac Jones checked to a play-action pass deep downfield to Jalen Reagor and hit off both of his hands. Ramondre Stevenson actually had an okay game running the football, 9 carries, 87 yards, but most of that came on a breakaway touchdown. So Patriots still really weren't able to establish the run. They had 107 yards rushing, most of which came on that one long touchdown by Ramondre Stevenson. Just overall, really, really tough game to see the Patriots play. They did not deserve to win that game. It shouldn't have been as close as it was with the number of yards that they were able to put up. And it's hard to be really encouraged. They lost the time of possession game, 37 minutes to 23 minutes. Like, how do you win with that? You can't. So, a lot to fix. I think Bill Belichick probably is seeing perhaps his final days in Foxborough, unless they can go on a run here with the weaker schedule coming up. But, now you don't have any shot at the postseason, and you're 1-4 at home. You can't beat NFC teams. You can't win the easy ones. They got a long way to go, and it's more than just drafting a Marvin Harrison or bringing in a different quarterback or getting a tackle. there's a lot of guys they're going to lose on defense this offseason that hopefully they re-sign some of them, but I'm not sure they will. And, you have to completely reshape the offense. Hopefully you can bring Hunter Henry back. Hopefully you can bring Kendrick Bourne back. Should be able to get him at value coming off an injury. But, this is a rebuild that's going to take a few years. That's what it's looking like at this point, unless they can start patching things together. Again, I think the offensive scheme is getting better. The offense seems to be improving. They are working with so little. But today's issue was the defense, and it was the special teams, and it was an offense that just didn't have the weapons. So we got a early game in Frankfurt, Germany next week against the Indianapolis Colts. I'll have some more analysis coming later this week. Be sure to check out PatsCast.com. I'll see you then.